Absolutely fantastic. Leaving Lisbon by none other than Mann Friday. We've been promising for the past week or so that we're going to have this conversation, and we have finally managed to secure it. I want to say a very good day to Rob from Mann Friday. How's it going?
John, great. So great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's an absolute pleasure having you. As I've mentioned, it has been a while. We've had a few issues here and there from my side, technically, and all the rest. But I'm glad we finally got this. And you're in the fantastic area at the moment. You're not even in South Africa.
Yeah, I'm in Zim, Zimbabwe, and I wish I could say it was sunny Zim, but it's actually like seven degrees today. So it's so cold. I can't believe how cold it is. I'm in Harare.
Yeah, you're not missing much yeah, in South Africa, my man. I'm sure you've seen the snow in Josie itself, in Gauteng.
Oh, it's
And
crazy, eh?
it's
It's
just been
crazy.
it's been absolutely nuts, man. It's freezing here in the Eastern Cape as well. But I'm hoping that this conversation is gonna warm up everybody that's listening into it this morning as well, because it really needs to be told. And I wanted to say first and foremost how much of a fan I have become of Man Friday over the past 2 months. I must be honest with you.
That's cool. I'm so glad, man. I'm so glad. So yeah, I mean, Bridge North Road. This is our sixth album that's coming out,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
as you just been playing, the Leaving Lisbon is one of the singles off it. And you're in the Eastern Cape. I'm an old rodent, so I'm familiar with
okay.
loads of my old stomping grounds. And Man Friday was born at Rhodes University, '98, John. So I might look
Wow.
35, but I'm 45. And we did. So we were a student band knocking about when we did album one, and then moved to Cape Town. And Cape
Yeah.
Town started to play more and more music, and realized that this is kind of what I wanted to do with my life, and then
Mm,
spoke to the band and said, "Guys, if you're going to go for this, let's move to let's go to London." So we actually moved to London, and I think that's where we kind of my main sort of sonic DNA was formed. It was a bit
yeah.
harder and rockier, and it was the same year Block Party were out, the Killers came out with Mr. Brightside. It was that era in music, and it
Cheapers.
was it was a good decade, and we kind of were full time musicians for close to a decade in London, where
Hmm.
we did Waiting for the Flash with this our kind of like London album.
Yeah.
And then parenthood, parenthood and marriage struck. I think I was in my early 30s and decided to come back to South Africa and lived in Cape Town.
Oh,
And while in
fantastic.
Cape Town, we did another album called Train Rides and Radio Play. And one of those
Okay.
tracks actually called Sunrise Every Day, which was shot on Lion's Head in Cape Town, was picked
Wow.
up by a Dutch label of all. I mean, it's crazy. I got a sort of anonymous call from this Dutch label saying, "Hey, Rob, we love track seven on this album. Will you move to Holland and sign a deal?" And so yeah, with a 1 year old child, and we moved to Holland to fulfill our contract with V2 Records, and that's
Wow.
album number five. And now, John, there's 10 years since that story till today. So it's been a decade since our
Wow.
last. We've been messing around with the odd project. We managed to play
Mm.
Glastonbury in 2015, which was
Yeah.
awesome. But
Yeah.
basically, this sort of like midlife, this kind of like midlife record, which is
Mm.
about having kids and kind of slowing down, and the real world kind of knocks on your door a bit. It's taken
Yeah.
a while to pull together, and yeah, we're super proud of it. We're super proud
Yeah.
of it.
I want to talk about this album, and I like the fact that you've given a brief introduction as to how it's come to that point. And the one question I have to ask is why? Obviously, life has taken place. You know, as you said, got married, the kids, the family vibe, everything else. Everyone does their own thing for a couple of years. 10 years later, and a sixth album. What? How does it feel to release a sixth after 10 years?
Yeah, and I think I've been quite open about the backdrop of this record. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like a midlife crisis album, as in the first third of it was written married, and
Yeah.
openly and unashamedly to say I'm a divorcee now. Like I've realized I'm not the only one on planet Earth, and
Trust me,
that's a
you're
tough.
not.
Yeah, that's a tough space. And so post
Mm.
divorce, there was a few songs written, um,
Okay.
and then we were going to release this very interesting body of work, which has kind of got two sides to a marriage. It's there's the on
Mm,
ramp and the off ramp, and with that comes
mm,
all the sort of joy and hope and beauty of a family, and then obviously all the difficulty that
yeah.
comes with when things don't work out. And then COVID hit. So to answer your question, why 10 years? I think it was meant to be 7, 6 or 7. And then
Okay.
COVID hit
Okay.
just about a month before we wanted to release Bridge North Road. And
Sure.
in the last 4 years, the most unlikely thing has happened. And that is like, I've fallen in love again and I've got married again and I've written a song about it. So, so track 11, it's just called Caravan in the Mist. It was released as one
Yeah.
of the singles. It's kind of a poetic end to, yeah, it's to a tough season, and a tough season I think that's relatable for a lot of people out there that
Yes.
don't make it through, marriage one. Um, and you sort of think of all of the sort of strange karmic reasons as to why it was never released, and also why there is this beautiful ending to the song. And some
Correct.
of your listeners might have gone to Africa Burn this year.
Hmm.
We got married, Kath and I, who's obviously my wife now. Kath and I got married. We were the ones responsible for the big red heart, which was one of the
Okay.
huge art pieces at the Burn. That was our heart, and we got married in front of it, with 100
Wow.
friends from all over the world. And it's kind of been
Jeez.
an end to, yeah, this serious chapter. And so if you ask me, how do I feel about getting this album out? It's kind of like I want it to be done. Hey, I want this thing
Yeah.
out, I want to get like a big piece of chalk and draw a line in the sand and be okay.
Yes.
We're super proud of this, and it of this
Mm,
of these songs and what it's meant. But it's time that it's done now. Like the chapters closed. I think also
absolutely.
it's quite strange to work for so long on material.
Yeah.
If I had to look back at our previous albums, they were kind of done and dusted, a focused 18 month of life and experience and whatever, and
Correct.
you're writing the songs and you're
Mm,
workshopping them with the band and you're gig testing them on the live circuit, and things happen quicker.
mm,
And there's something to be said for that, but there's also, this is the first time that this album has kind of matured, like a sort of fine
correct.
wine is probably an egotistical
Yes.
word to use, but I'm just saying it's aged, like in this barrel
Mm,
of experience.
mm,
And you look back at it, and I just look at each track, and I'm like, man, I remember that moment. Ish, I remember that time, or I remember that happy
yeah.
thing. I remember that tough season, and now it's kind of in
Mm,
the rearview mirror. An album, and that's the great thing about it being a musician, is album is just a beautiful snapshot
correct.
of
Yeah.
you know these
Yeah.
moments in time.
I
And
love I love the way you
yeah,
said that, Rob. It's fantastic that you've actually said that as well, because I feel that, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that because it's taken so long, every song has had obviously has a different meaning towards it. That's got a bit of a message behind it, and it's personalized with regard to what you may have gone through over the past few years as well. And I mean, that there already tells me as an artist that you basically write from your personal experiences or from experiences in your life itself around you.
for sure.
Because I think that that's where the best music comes from. So big ups on that. A lot of artists out there write about beautiful sunshines and rockets coming out of wherever, but it's really not the real thing. Now,
No,
is that something that you thrive on and have thrived on ever since you started?
yeah, I think that being an artist, being a musician, sorry, is a byproduct of the skill, or this lucky skill that you're gifted somehow through whatever means.
Mm,
It's
mm,
that you use to get through tough times or to make sense of stuff to yourself. The byproduct is
yeah,
that people listen to it. So if you're a
true.
painter and you want to, there's some catharsis in sitting by a dam and putting on some Tracy Chapman with a glass of wine and painting this massive landscape. It's just a
Mm,
byproduct that people might be interested in buying it. And I think the same thing
mm,
with definitely folk centric songwriting, or the singer songwriter sort of genre, is that
correct.
you're faced with stuff that you can't quite adequately describe. And so something in a melody and the lyric and those things, and a chord, all of those things meld together to try and express something that actually in English you can't do on your own, and you need to
Yeah.
do it, like, to cope. So
Mm,
so yeah, I mean, I think
mm,
Mann Friday music has always had this very honest thread of trying to figure stuff out.
Mm,
And for some people, when they hear that, they'll be like, "Yeah, I've been through that. I know what that's about." And I agree with you that
mm,
that's one place generally, not all the time, but it's one place that
yeah,
pop lets us down.
yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I liked that you said it because I know when you mentioned Caravan in the Mist and what the real story behind it was, and the ending of it as well. I think that is why I related to it so well because I've been in the same situation you've been in. And
Okay.
it was like that song really really spoke to me in a way that I thought I don't generally listen to music in that sense a lot because I listen to so much of it being in the industry. It's like
Yes.
you'll listen to a song and you're like, okay, that sounds quite catchy. This could get my listeners going, all good. And then you get a song like Caravan in the Mist for one, and you're like, okay, I have to listen to this like 2 or 3 times, not because I'm trying to convince myself that it's good enough for radio, but because it's starting to tell me something. Subconsciously,
Yeah.
you start listening to the lyrics, and it's like, damn, this is very, very, very impressive, and it's something that's really hitting me hard. So
Thanks.
that perfectly well done on that. I must be honest, I've enjoyed like I said before, I've enjoyed every single single that has come out from prior to the album release and to the release itself. Like I say, Caravan in the Mist, one of my favorites. I'm not going to even be biased about the fact that it is one of my favorites that you've released, obviously of late. But I must
Yes.
be honest, I'm really enjoying Hurricane as well. And
Yeah.
damn, now
Hurricane is
that
a
there
gem.
is a
It's
song.
a bit of a gem. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Hurricane's a bit of a gem. And interesting story behind Hurricane is because it was the sort of during COVID set of tracks,
Hmm.
the sort of like separating all that sort of tough season. My Justin, who's the main guitarist for Man Friday, couldn't make it back to London to record. So we
Oh man.
used. I reached out to a guitarist that we had played on the London gig circuit with for many years, a guy called Seaton,
Okay.
and he's just this beautiful emo guitar genie. And we always loved the guitar sounds. Their band's called Fiction Plane, really worth checking them out. And
Okay.
I messaged Seaton. I was like, dude, would you be remotely interested in coming to help do guitars and produce this body of work? Like, you sneak out and make it to the studio, or whatever. And I remember he played that first chord in Hurricane. He played that first chord, and I was just,
Oof.
it just hit me. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this is exactly the sound that the feeling is meant to emit. And I'm like,
Mm, mm,
so we had made the right decision, and it's a great song. I'm very
mm.
proud of Hurricane. Yeah.
Nah, definitely one of those. I want to finish off this conversation, obviously, with the lead single that we're going to focus on mostly, and that's "Leaving Lisbon." Now, I must be honest, I've really enjoyed this single. I'm glad that Mel sent it to me as the leading, like the focus single of this album for this conversation as well. Tell us more about the story behind "Leaving Lisbon." How did that song come about, and what does it really mean for you guys?
So this is where I'll let you down a bit, because
Okay.
this is the one exception on the whole album where there should be this kind of like dark sonic like reason behind it all, and this is the
Yep.
truth. That when I told you we got signed in Holland and we moved to Amsterdam for
Yeah.
that record deal, um, we were in this. I was on a radio interview exactly like this on 3FM
Hmm.
or whatever. I can't remember the radio station, and I said to the DJ, I said, "What? Let's try something. Let the audience phone in. I've got these chords
Yep.
that have been like haunting me for the last couple of weeks. I've got this chord progression. Because I was doing a few live songs, and I said, let the audience phone in with an animal, a color, an emotion, a city, and I can't remember what the fifth one was, but it was basically Lisbon was the city, cat was the animal, white was the color, and envy was the emotion. Now, if you listen to the track,
Jeepers.
you'll hear them. And
Yep.
so we went to an ad break, and I just suddenly scrolled out the lyrics. And when we came back, I had to sing
Fantastic.
it live, and it was this kind of jokey thing.
Yeah.
And when we were getting work together for this new album, Justin said to me, "Rob, do you remember that crazy interview you did in Holland?" He said, "I'm telling you, that's a track." And I'm like, "No, come on." He said,
No.
"Dude, I'm telling you, there's a song in there." And so we workshopped it. So that is the one track
Oh.
where, yeah, it's kind of a bit of fun, and it's and that's the way it sort of ended up being.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. You didn't let me down, Rob. Don't stress, man. You didn't let me down. That there is
Cool.
exciting as anything in the whole album. And I must be honest with you, I'm listening to that album on Spotify most like every second or third day really since it's come out. It's something that's part of my playlist, and I'm not ashamed to say it to my listeners. Go check it out
Awesome.
on all digital platforms, man. Where can our listeners get hold of Man Friday before we close off?
Yeah, so it's on all the DSPs. It'll be on Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer, Amazon, if you're into that.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's on all the usual suspects.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Rob, you've been a fantastic person to have on the show, man. We look forward to hearing from you again very, very soon. And all the very best with the next releases coming out. I'm sure there's plenty more to come from you guys.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers, man.